Hi there. So say goodbye to boring beats. Now it's time to check out how to integrate digital audio workstation sequencer with your external drum machine. So let's get going with Ableton Live and TR8S. I'm sure that you, as I have been struggling to set up the external drum synthesizer working with your digital audio workstation, and I have done many iterations on it that what would be the best way to do it, and what I have found out now specifically in Ableton Live is that easiest it is to do with drum rack, and to configure drum rack as your MIDI and then getting the audio in on individual channels. This is something of course you need to set up in Roland, for example in a Roland TR8S to send it individually, because you have two options: send it like individually each channel, or then everything is summed and buzzed into stereo. And here I have already a ready-made solution that I will then of course show and how did I create it. But then it looks like this, so that you can easily then use the drum rack and program your drums in a way that you want, and you can utilize then the sequencer in Ableton Live. How did I come about this was that I started to just kind of experiment different options that how to do it, and so let's do it from scratch. So I show all the phases. So one need to pull the drum rack into your project, and then of course you have an empty project, and then what you need to do in a drum rack is that you need to then go and instrument and bring in an external instrument into drum rack, so that you configure the MIDI to be sent out. In this case mine is channel 10. You can have an audio input, but now when I have already routed the audio to all of these individual audio tracks so that they are coming in from the respective channels, we don't need to worry actually about the audio input in this case. So let's move into the mapping of things, and when you have the drum rack over here, you need to do two things. You need to open up the chains, and then you need to open up the I/O so that both these are enabled. So like the chain is enabled and then the I/O is enabled. So then you can basically say that that you know when this chain is playing, and in this case it's C1, you can here actually program that what does it actually send out. So you can of course type it in or drag and drop, sorry, not drag, but click and drag so that you can set the right key to be sent to your drum machine. So in this case C1 represents C1. Then you can of course go over here also and rename this to a PD, like it is defined in this case in it's defined in this case in TR8S. So now let's see, when I press this, the kick drum comes live. So that's basically the configuration that you need to do. So once we have done the configuration for one of these chains, like C1 to C1, and it goes to the TR8S, then you actually need to copy this in that sense. So you can actually do two ways. You can actually do a duplicate, so it will actually duplicate this, and then you just need to change this into the C1, and then for the snare drum you need to basically then go like not C1 but D1, and then of course you want to rename this to be SD, snare drum. And now you have programmed the kick and snare, and this would be the practice to kind of continue all the way that you have all the basically individual drum tracks covered. So like in here, if we go back to the final version, I have them all programmed here, and then once you have done that, so then you are all done in that respect. But now if we go back to here and look, we have bass drum and snare drum, and so if I would like to create another one just to kind of duplicate this, and then I need to tweak these so that they come, in this case this would be D1, the next one would be D1, and then where do I want to send it is the key that is sent to the drum machine in order to play the sound. And now if I would go and add a MIDI here, you can see that I pretty much have these two now only here because I haven't programmed anything else. So I can go and do my kick drum, and then I can also do my snare, and then if I now play, I get those two. So now let's go back here and then still quickly take a look. So this is how it looks in the case when you have programmed everything. You can also change the order of these, so they don't need to follow the order of anything, because all that can be handled within the mapping of this device. So like for example C#1, A#1, and so on and so forth. So all that is pretty simple after you realize that how you can most sufficiently do that. But key points are that you need to create these chains, then you need to here define the mapping that they map into the pads in drum rack, and then you need to program that once that pad is basically pressed, then what key is sent out to the drum machine. And in my case I used the TR8S, but it could be any external drum machine, and you just need to do this mapping accordingly. The second phase was that when you have the one created, you can always duplicate the channel and then continue to doing the mapping all the way that you are in the end. And then finally you have then in case you would use TR8S, you would have this type of a map where you have all the 11 pads or 11 channels represented, and then you can start programming your drum patterns. More cowbell. All right. So that was Ableton Live. Next we will dive into Pro Tools to see how it is done in Pro Tools. Remember to subscribe for the channel for more content. Thanks for watching. Bye now.